I went to the Pursuit of Truth. Just a quick update. So after I appealed yesterday, after YouTube removed Pursuit of the Truth 403, was it Imagine Only One Existence? Because of, what was it, violent organised crime policy. As if I was, I don't know what they thought I was doing. I suspect it's someone reported it under that because they didn't like seeing maybe Black Lives Matter, maybe the George Floyd clip, or maybe they didn't like seeing or hearing what I was saying, because it was up for an hour before on YouTube. I think they would have checked it by that time, so I expect someone flagged it, and then when they checked, they probably just instantly block it, and then they check once you appeal, if you appeal. So it's back up now. Of course, all the videos that I used were from YouTube, and I think the Black Lives Matter one was BBC News, some were Sky News, some were other different ones that I found on YouTube, just showing human suffering. So I don't know whether I can really blame YouTube being censorship crazy on that. I guess they just had to be careful, but I don't think they really listened to it, because if they really listened to it and saw it, and they would have known from the very beginning that, okay, there's nothing there. So that's it really. It's back on. I actually put the audio only version, took the videos off because I wasn't sure how long it would take. That actually got a lot of views compared to the video one, so I spent all that time hunting for these videos, editing it, putting it all together for I think it's 4 or 5 views, whereas the one without the video clips is about 35 views now. So it was a bit like, why did you bother putting all those video clips? But the reason I wanted to put all those video clips because I thought, a picture tells, a photo tells 1,000 words. Oh God, I don't know which way it goes now. Yeah, something like that. So I wanted to go with the words, the images, so that, because sometimes when I talk about these things of suffering and all that kind of stuff, unless you see it visually, it doesn't really make an imprint on you, and you don't think about, yeah, this isn't right. So yeah, so at least that's done now, and I can move on to the next podcast, video, whatever you want to call these things. I don't know how many more I'm going to make of these, because I suspect I'm rambling or making the same points, but then again, there's always new people that come along, and they're not going to go back to see video number 1 or video number 150. The thing is, the reason I started this at the beginning was just because, I don't even remember now, but it was just to get across the points in a calm manner, because I noticed a lot of people that talk about these things, they tend to be shock jocks, they tend to be, trying for maybe for views or for controversy. Maybe that's how they get so many views, is by being in that style, but I wanted it to be more rational, because I find that people, when they come, shouty, and when they don't really think, their mouth just talks, they tend not to make great points, or they wander a little bit. So I wanted it to be a calm thing, so that it's difficult for it was, because when you start shouting, when you start abusing people, and when you start, like some of the truthers, the woke community, whatever you want to call them, do, it's a bit of a turn off, and it's easy for those people who want to challenge things to just say, well, look at how they're behaving. So I wanted to present someone who behaved sort of normally, I guess, with the same information of challenging the things that are around us. And there's lots of different things that I talk about, flat earth, or humanity's suffering, or 5G, or whatever things are that I come across, and trying to work out whether they are real or not, what the truth is regarding them. But the main thing I want to, when people listen to these things, is that at least I stood for something, I said something, I did try to talk about the issues that I thought needed talking about. And I'm just one person, my little voice, but everything starts with one, isn't it? One day maybe someone influential will listen to this, or someone who will become influential will listen to this and be able to take the message, be able to, understand that what I've seen now, what I've witnessed in my existence, my one only existence, my short life, is that the way that we're living is not fair, because there are people suffering out there by the system that we live within that is our own choice, our own making, our forefathers and their making. They chose money, they chose banks, they chose the system, how things would work, democracy and all that kind of stuff that we all keep on the treadmill, like the hamster going around, keeping it going. So I've seen that, I've woken up to that this isn't the only way that we can live, and we know that because there's been, many different ways, many different systems that have happened before, and it's evolved into this one. But it's up to us to understand sometimes that we can change, we can do things differently if we really want to. We can have a fair life for everyone. Everyone can be equal in the sense that everyone can have a 2-3 meals a day. Everyone can, because like you say, well, what's stopping that? And there's nothing stopping that, because the place that we live upon, whatever shape it is, has enough food for every single person. It has enough places for every single person to live, to have a house. There's enough for everyone we're so lucky. We've been given this vast place that has food for every single one of us. There should be no one starving. Why? When you think about how much food there is on the planet, there's some calculation there. You can have 700 billion people or whatever it is that the food actually here could support if we ate properly. A lot of us overeat, a lot of us waste food, and obviously the system that we live in, because we divided each other, the land up, we all have different responsibilities, and we don't see it as our responsibility when people starve because they can't grow crops because of the weather conditions. I mean, it is shameful, because what I mean is that we can make so many different systems. We can, if it's true, send things out to space. But we can't make sure that every single child, every single person that's born cannot starve, cannot live an equal life where they don't have to worry about where the next meal's coming from. They don't have to worry about feeling cold. Even in our own countries of UK and US, where there's abundance of wealth and rich and technology and whatever, there's still people that are starving. There's still people that are on the streets. There's still people, old people, that can't pay for their bills and have to go cold because they have to choose between heating and food. We created this system of money, of everyone has to work for what they get. It's your responsibility. It's your fault if you're starving, if you're an 80-year-old and you have to choose between food or electricity. It's your fault because you didn't work hard in the beginning. You didn't make enough money. What kind of system is that? What kind of mentality is that? But politicians will defend all these things. They will skirt around it. They'll say, yeah, we're worried about this, and they'll put this amount of money in, and it all sounds good and this, that and the other. But at the end of the day, does it solve the problem? No, it doesn't, because people are still in that situation. This world over, the era of television, of social media, of being able to capture the things that happens that we now can see. In the past we couldn't see that. We wouldn't be able to see the suffering and starvation and wars that happened a million miles away. But now we can see every single thing. We know, within minutes what's happening everywhere. There's no excuse for living this way other than, keeping the system alive, because we're too scared to change it, or because those people who are in control, because that's how it works at the end of the day. It's not us little people, even though we do have the power of voting, but we don't use it properly, because at the end of the day we're told we have democracy. We have democracy. You can choose whoever you want in power. But wait a minute, most of the time it's just between two old white men that you get to choose between. who just want to keep, who are probably wealthy, probably gone to wealthy schools, had a wealthy existence, even if they do claim to be, from Labour or from a Democrat, and the idea of that, oh, I'm a working class person and this, that, and the other. I come from a working class family, and you do all the details and you find they went to these rich schools, or they had wealthy, they're not really that dissimilar from the other side. That's not democracy. When you think of how many people there are on this planet, you won't get, a tramp, a homeless person, as to say, being the Prime Minister. No one's going to vote for them, is it? It's always going to be these two white men, these two white dudes, old dudes you're always going to vote for, and they're going to keep the same things because they don't believe in this, the new generation of thinking. Maybe this will change as these young people become older and they will keep these changes, but what will probably happen is they'll just assimilate into these old white dudes of the yesteryear. And we'll never change this thing. And most of the time when you get radicals, they get cast out because they're radicals. You can just use that one word. That one word can destroy everything that's said from them by just saying the radicals. And then suddenly it's like, oh well, they can't be followed, they can't be believed because they're just gonna, everything's gonna go to shit. And the thing is like, how many leaders are there on the divided lands of this world that we've all been given freely? How many leaders are there, and oppositions, and the future ones to come? You have to change all those minds. Now maybe that's only 1,000 people, but then it goes, you've got all the oil people, all the technology people, all the top companies, those people, the people that actually fund these, the Democrats, the Republicans, Labour, Conservatives. They have to get their money from donors. All these people that influence the world that we live within. All of these people, how many are there? Our problem of changing people, of changing the system, of changing the world, is probably down to maybe 10,000 people, maybe 100,000 people at most. I don't think there'd be 1 million people that are that much. Well, maybe it is. Maybe there's 1 million people. If we could change those million people around the world's mind, how would you do that? How would you go about doing that? That's what, when I talk about all these things of changing all this and the system we live within, and I think to myself, like, how is it possible to do that? It seems so impossible because we're just little people. All we can do is share videos on YouTube and hope that other people watch it and it changes their mind, and then it changes someone else, it changes their kids or whatever. But the problem is, there's so much of the system on television, through social media, through the powerful people, that is going to eat away at those radical thoughts, as it were. And then, like I said, just assimilate into those people because you get money, and then suddenly you think, oh, well, it's not so important that I worry about someone in a poor country starving because I'm all right, Jack. I've got my own house now. I've got my own job. I'm doing well. I've got a family. I've got them to look after now. So I won't worry about those people that are starving and dying all the time. It's not fair. And then you've got all these religious people who believe, there's more religious people than non-religious people, apparently. But you wouldn't know it for the place that we live upon. Because if I'm getting angry, if I'm getting sad thinking about all these starving people, all this suffering, why isn't it they aren't like this? Why isn't it the Pope isn't like this? A passionate speech talking about the wrongs, using his power, his influence, or the caliphs, or whoever, that are, have all this say over all these people, because television has power. So does religion. So does the church. So does the mosque. So does the synagogue. So does the gurdwara. When it comes to voting, they go to talk to these people to get them to say, get your parishioner to vote for Labour or for Conservative, Democrat, Republic, whatever. Why aren't they trying to make this change? We're all meant to believe, religious-wise, that we're all God's children. That we're all equal. Man, woman. All of us. So how can they look, with their big BMWs and Mercedes and huge houses and huge mosques and churches when there's people starving, when there's people suffering every single minute of every single day? Why aren't they like this? Because they could be the ones, the catalyst to change it, because they're the ones that have morality, that have this idea of helping each other. of caring for your brother, for your neighbour, us all being God's children, no matter what we do, forgiveness, and all these things, these virtues, where are they in practice? Maybe those are the powerful people that could change this. But where is it? It's not. There aren't any powerful people that want to change this way, because everyone wants to keep the same way, or maybe they can't be deluded, because these are people who are connected closer to God than anyone else. So surely they would see the truth more than anyone else. They would see the idea of money being evil. Oh, of course, it's already in the Bible. And yet it still exists. And those religious people are still using money. And they're still trying to collect it. They've assimilated as well. The words in their own books tell them that the way that we're living is wrong, is evil, is more of Satan than God. But where's their impassionate speech? Where's their change? If they started doing that, they'd become radicals like Jesus, throwing tables over. And then how would they end up? I just don't know. It just frustrates me when the same thing you see. And I'm not the first. I'm not anything special. There's many people that see the same thing that I've seen through now, in the future, in the past. You've got books of the stuff. We've got films that we all watch every year. And still the same system gets peddled out. We teach our children the same things, even though we know a lot of it's rubbish or wrong. We don't teach our children I'm so just frustrated, really. I'm losing my voice in this. It just seems so impossible to try and change a world, a whole, that's why it's not happened. You've had like Dickens and Orwell and Tressel, lots of writers, lots of famous people, Gandhi, whoever, who have tried to change the world for the better, and they've been ruled in or assimilated or taken over in calming down what they really want to do. And a lot of those people had more power, but still, it hasn't changed things. It hasn't. I don't know. I just don't know. It's when you look at it this way. When you think of, it seems easy when you talk about it that why it's so stupid the way that we live. But when you think of 7 billion people, all spread across different places, all with different thoughts and ideas of what's right and what's wrong and what's acceptable and what's not, what they will tolerate and what they won't, and how easily they will be bought. If you give them a job, give them some money, give them a house, give them television and entertainment, then they'll be happy. They won't care about the suffering of those, because they will consider that to be someone else's problem. I don't know what could change this. I don't even believe if God himself came and spoke, I don't think it would change. I think there's been many chances of that, and it still hasn't changed. Not for the better. Not for many of the prophets that have come down. We still look at the suffering that's going on. Yeah, maybe you could say it could have been worse, but it could be a whole lot better. But how do you change 7 billion people's minds into loving one another and caring about one another truly? Not just saying it, but actually doing it. How do you do that? Maybe it is impossible. And we're all just going to live and die in the system that we live within, and that's it, tough. No matter how much we scream, no matter how much we cry, no matter how many people die for their cause or for the change or whatever, is never going to make any difference. We're still going to live the same way until it eventually naturally happens. environmental things, psychological things, us growing up as a species. I guess that's the only way it's going to happen. You know, was it organically? I don't know how you would explain that. You know, the way that we've evolved over the last 100 years and become better people, less, well, I was going to say less wars, less big wars. So maybe that's the only way it'll change once eventually we all evolve better into loving one another. Anyway, I've waffled long enough. Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.